How are you doing today? Would you be interested in learning a super simple recipe for delicious homemade sourdough bagels? Homemade sourdough bagels are not only delicious, but they're also healthier for you. So stick around and learn our easy recipe and 4 reasons why homemade sourdough bagels are healthier for you. Hi, I'm Scott Young and my wife is Cheryl Young, and welcome to Cheryl Young Lifestyle Kitchen. Today, I'm going to be sharing our super simple sourdough bagel recipe with you. This way, you can make delicious, healthy sourdough bagels at home. To do this, we'll be doing it in 3 simple steps. First, we will start by making the dough and then letting it rest. Second, we will portion and shape the dough, followed by another small rest period. And thirdly, will be the water boil or the water bath and the cooking time. So stay tuned. Okay, so to start, I'm going to introduce my equipment that we're going to need to mix the dough and the ingredients and their quantities. So starting from my right, your left, we've got our KitchenAid stand mixer with our trusty dough hook. I've got a bowl of 500 grams of general purpose flour. All right. I've got my trusty fork for mixing. I've got a big bowl of active sourdough starter. It's very important that it is active. Okay. I have 10 grams of sea salt, all right, coarse ground, and I have 255 grams of water. Over here, I have my stand mixing bowl, which I'm going to put all the ingredients in. I have my trusty scale. Now I've pre-weighed all this stuff, but you're going to need a scale because you're going to want to make sure your measurements are accurate. All right, and in the background here, I have our bowl with cover. All right, that it's like a pantry chef or magic chef or what the hell is that? It is the Pampered Chef. It's a great bowl. Slap the cover on it. All right, and that's where our dough is going to go once it's been mixed. Okay, but before we begin, it's time for a little bit of knowledge, right? So I told you I was going to give you 4 reasons why sourdough is healthier for you, all right? So the sourdough fermentation process enhances the nutrition value of the bread in several ways, okay? The first one being, during fermentation, beneficial bacteria and yeast present in the sourdough starter break down the complex carbohydrates and gluten proteins in the flour, making them easier to digest for you, okay? This process also releases vitamins and minerals from the grain, making them more available for absorption by your body, okay? So that's the first reason why sourdough is better for you than store-bought bread or even store-bought sourdough, okay? Because it's not going to be the same as what we're making here, okay? So let's begin. First thing I'm going to do, all right, is I turn on my scale, all right, and then I'm going to add my 250 grams of water. I've already pre-measured this, all right. Usually when I'm doing it myself, I just fill it up and I pour it in because I usually do a couple batches at once. All right, so we've got our 255 grams of water. In that goes, okay? Pardon me. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my coarse ground sea salt, and in that goes. Now, first use of my trusty fork. When you're doing this, you're going to look into the bowl and you're going to see the salt is very coarse and it's clumped, right? I like to stir the water, and what that does is it's going to help dissolve the salt so that it distributes throughout the water evenly, okay? So you're just going to keep doing that. Keep going, keep going, keep going. It takes a little bit. Right? And yes, I know that sound is incredibly annoying, isn't it? All right. And we keep going. We're almost there. We're almost there. I'm going to grab this. And we're done. All right, so that's all been dissolved into the water, and it's just going to make it easier to distribute throughout the dough. All right. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my active sourdough starter. All right. If you look in there, you can see it's still kind of got holes in it because it's bubbling. All right. You want it to be active. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my trusty fork again. Before I do that, I'm going to tear my scale. There we go. And we're back to 0. And then I'm just going to mix my fork into it. And you see how it kind of deflates? That's all right. That's perfectly normal. All right. That's going to happen. So what I'm going to do then is going to add 60 grams of my starter. Okay. We're just going to kind of drop it in there. And bloop. That's 38. We're at 48. Ooh, 55. And there we go, 60 bang on. Look at me go. All right. And then I'm going to scrape off the rest of my starter from my trusty fork. There's a little bit left on there. It's not a big deal. I haven't found any issues with it in all the times that I've done this recipe, okay? All right, so I'm going to put that down. I'm going to take my trusty fork again, and I'm going to mix up the starter in the bowl. All right? You don't have to get crazy with it. You're not trying to make sure it's completely broken down, right, or mixed into the water. It's completely diffused, okay? But all we're doing is we're just breaking it down so it's not clumpy. All right, and there we go. Okay, oh, I forgot to mention too, if you're not sure about your starter, you know, you're doing it the first couple times, is it active, is it not active? When you put it in the water, if it doesn't float, if it sinks right to the bottom, it's not active and you can't use it, okay? So make sure your starter floats, all right? So we'll put the fork in there. We're then going to take our trusty bowl of 500 grams of flour, and then I'm just gonna dump that into the bowl. There we go. And that is it. All right. Make sure I get all of it out. And that's it. Come on. Give me that last little bit. Okay. And we're just going to throw that off camera. All right. And so now we have all our ingredients in the bowl. Now what's great about this recipe is you don't have to use your hands, you don't have to do anything, okay? All you're going to do is you're going to take your stand mixing bowl and we're going to lock it in to our stand mixer. All right, I'm then going to attach my dough hook and make sure it's secure. Raise my stand mixer up and lock it in a position, okay? And then all I'm going to simply do is I'm going to turn it on to the lowest setting, and that's it. All right. Now what I normally do is I will put 4 minutes on the timer on my stove. That is kind of like my fail-safe. I don't want to mix it any more than 4 minutes. It usually takes about 3 minutes before it's completely incorporated, right? And it's a dough ball. The one thing with sourdough is you don't want to over-mix it too much, all right? Because then you won't get that nice rise, right? And it becomes a little stiff, right? You don't get that nice crust, and the inside is it's just like it's dense. It's too thick. It's not enjoyable, all right? So all I'm going to do is just let that mix and mix and mix, all right? While I'm waiting for that, I'm just going to take this and move them off camera so I can clean them later. All right. All right. And it's mixing away. Okay? Okay. So I just stopped the stand mixer. All right. And again, the dough formed. It was good to go in about 3 minutes. It was all incorporated. So one of the things I look for when I know the dough is done is when I look into the bowl, there's no loose bits of dough. It's all mixed up. You might have like a slight residue on some parts of the bowl. That's fine. Okay, but when there's no loose bits of dough in the bowl, all right, you know that it's mixed, okay, it's stopped. And again, that's usually 3 minutes. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that down. remove the dough hook like so, and I'm going to pull out our dough ball. Now I've pre-washed my counter, and all I'm going to do is I just want to form this into a dough ball. And I'm not worried. I'm not going to try and make it a smooth dough ball. I'm not going to overwork anything. I'm not worried about these seams as long as they're not too crazy, right? Just something like that. Okay, again, I don't want to overwork it. I'm just going to put it all together, because sometimes what will happen is in the mixer it'll break into two separate pieces when you stop it. You know, it's not a dough ball, it's kind of all over the place. So you just want to roughly shape it into the ball. All right, don't overwork it. You're going to put it into your bowl, right? And you're going to cover it. Okay? If you don't have something like this Pampered Chef bowl, right, with a container, or some stand mixers have a lid that goes on top of it. If you have one of those, take off your dough hook, slap that on and remove it, and just leave it in there. Okay? What I do when I do a big batch, when I do a couple batches and I only have one of these, is I'll just take a glass bowl, put it in, put saran wrap over top. Works fine. Not a big deal. Okay? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, I'm going to put that on the counter. All right? It's 9:51 p.m. All right? And at 10 o'clock tomorrow, roughly thereabouts, sometimes 11, usually sits for 12, 13 hours. And that's when I'm going to start portioning and shaping my bagels. Okay? So I'm going to take a break for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. Of course, this is all going to be on one video, but I'll see you tomorrow, and we will start the second step of portioning and shaping our bagels. All right? Hey everyone, we're back. This is day 2 of our sourdough bagel recipe. So we've let our sourdough rise overnight, approximately 12 hours plus. We're probably closer to like 13 and a bit. Not a big deal, okay? So for this step, which is the portioning and the shaping, I've got my baking sheet with my parchment paper. Of course, I got my sourdough that's covered. I've got a spatula. All right, this is going to help me get it out of the bowl. I just like using it that way. You can use your hand if you feel that works for you. And I've got a dough knife, and I've got my trusty scale. All right, and I'll explain why I have that in a little bit. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my lid on here. I'm going to tear it, and now I'm going to remove my dough from the bowl. All right, and all I do is I just go around in a circle, all right, just like that, and just kind of peeling it away from the edge of the bowl. All right, making sure we don't leave anything in there, because we don't want to leave any of the goodness, the good sourdough in there. All righty. And there. And we got it out. All right, I'm just going to throw that there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh my sourdough. Okay, now you're probably wondering why I'm weighing it. Okay, the reason why I'm weighing it is with our nutrition plan that Cheryl and I eat, we weigh the bagels so that when we cook them, they turn out the weight we need. Okay, what that prevents for us is whenever we used to buy sourdough bagels from a baker we used to go to in town, we'd end up like cutting little bits off and stuff like that. We'd end up using them for, you know, when we're having snacks or dip or something. But this way, it's nice just to put the bagel on the scale when you're making, because we do a bagel sandwich as part of our mealtime, a chicken and bagel sandwich with tomato and lettuce and mustard and cheese. Delicious, love it. And it's just nice to put the bagel on the scale just to confirm, and it's like, for me, it's 120 grams. I weigh that just to see what I've got. Don't really have to, but I like to, just to let myself know that everything came out all right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it in half. All right? just like so. Okay. Now, when you're doing this for yourself, okay, all you have to do is just portion it equally. Right? You'll get about 6 from that amount, or the recipe that we gave you. You'll get about 6 easy. You might be able to stretch it out to 8. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the scale 133 grams of dough. All right, so all our dough is portioned out. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide this over, all right, and we're going to get into shaping them. But before we get into shaping them, we have to drop a little bit more knowledge, all right? So the sourdough fermentation process increases the bioavailability of certain nutrients, such as iron, zinc, and magnesium. It does this by reducing the presence of phytic acid, which can inhibit their absorption. Okay? The longer fermentation process also contributes to the development of prebiotics and probiotics, which support gut health and overall good digestion. Okay? So there you go. Another awesome reason why sourdough is just terrific. Okay? Along with being super delicious and tasty. Okay, so now we're going to shape it. I've pre-washed my countertop here. I don't put anything down, okay? Like I don't put any flour down, I just grab it. Now with all these little bits, I'm just going to slide this up, make sure you guys can see. I try not to overwork the dough. Like when I first started doing this, I was trying to make like a perfect ball, and I really work it, and try and make it a nice smooth ball so I can make it a nice round bagel. All I do now, all right, is I put all my little bits in the center, and then I just fold into the middle, just like so. Fold into the middle. All right, and there's a method to my madness. I'll explain why. Okay. So I'm going to lift this up so you can see it. So you can see on the bottom, you'll see all these little seams. All right. And they don't have to be perfect, okay? But the reason I do that is so that when I go to boil them, I can tell which is the top and which is the bottom. Because sometimes we make a lot of these, and you're boiling, and you're flipping, and you're boiling, and you're flipping, and you're going along, and you're like, oh my God, have I flipped these? Have I not? So it just gives me a little visual cue that, oh yeah, these ones have already been flipped. That's why I do it. Okay, so we put that down. We're just going to make a nice round shape. And again, you're making these at home for yourself. They don't have to be perfect, all right? A nice round shape. Take my hands, and I'm just gonna pat it down, okay? Now, you don't have to go nuts and mush it right down or flatten it. I just pat it down so it gets a nice round shape. Then I take my finger and right in the center like so, okay? And I do that, and I gently lift it up, flip it over, just like so. All right, and then I give it a little spin, flip it back. From there, that's our hole done. All right, you can see that, and you can still see that I got a little bit of my lines left. I'll be able to tell if it's the bottom or the top. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on my baking sheet. And we're going to do the next one. All right, so we've got 2 done there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish these up off camera, guys, and then we're going to move on to the boiling and the baking phase. For cast-offs like this, if you are going to find out what your portion size is, what I'm going to try and do, I haven't done it yet, but what I'm thinking about doing is freezing this, right? And then the next time I make a batch, thaw it out and add to it, and just try it out and see if it works. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. All right, if you want to try it and let me know how it works, please do. You can post it in the comments. All right, so again, I'm going to finish shaping these up, and then I will get set up for the boiling and the baking phase. Okay, see you in a bit. Hey everyone, we're back, and it's time to boil, and we're going to cook our bagels. For this step, what you're going to need, you need a pot of boiling water, which is going right now. All right, you're going to need a spoon or a ladle or something like that. Okay, I've used this, I got it from a wok cooking set years ago. All right, and of course, we're going to have our bagels that have risen again, and you can see that they're a little bit plumper than when you first made them and shaped them. They were a little bit flat, but they've risen back up again. Also, you're going to need 1 egg, tablespoon, a spoon, actually I need a fork, and a little brush for applying the egg wash, okay? And I got my glass of water there for the water, okay? So that's what we're going to need for this next step. But before we get on, we got to drop some knowledge, all right? And it's time for Knowledge Bomb 3. Okay, so the lactic acid produced during the fermentation process contributes to a lower glycemic index in sourdough bread. All right, what that means is it has less impact on your blood sugar compared to normal bread or bread made with commercial yeast like you would buy in the grocery store. Okay, so that's why sourdough is better for you. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get on with the process here. Okay, so the way I like to do it, all right, my water's boiling. And you want to make sure that your water is at a rolling boil or a very vigorous boil. What you don't want is to put your bagels in and the water stops boiling. Okay? So I take them, I turn them upside down, because remember the process, you're going to have some lines on the bottom from when we shaped them and made them. I lower them in, and then I just hit my timer and put 1 minute. All right? Now, the reason why we're boiling the bagels, okay, is the bagel, when it's boiling, that boiling process creates that crust and it creates that chewiness of the bagel, okay? The longer you boil the bagel, the more dense and chewy it's going to be. I used to do 2 minutes. I've now dropped it down to 1 minute because I find it's just the right amount of chewiness. You know what I mean? It's just that perfect, okay? So as you're boiling them, what you're going to see as they'll sink to the bottom and then they're going to start to rise. And sometimes you got to separate them because they'll try and stack on top of one another. All right? And then they're going to rise to the top and they're just going to float around. All right? Again, 1 minute. You can try it longer if you want. I did 2. Now I'm down to 1. Another thing I want to mention while I'm doing this is for the 20 to 30 minute secondary rise after you shape your bagels. Give me 1 sec. And then you just flip them at the beat, like so, and then another minute on the timer. All right. For the secondary rise, you really want to stay hard and fast with that max 30-minute timing. Okay. So once you shape them, you got them on your tray, you cover them. Let them rise again, but no more than 30 minutes, okay? I did it one time where, you know, I had a dental appointment. I said, oh, well, 30 minutes is good, an hour or whatever. I think it was an hour and a half by the time I actually got back. I went to boil them, and when I was putting them back on the tray when they came out of the water, you could actually see the bagels, like, deflate, and they went really thin. They were super hard. Yeah, it wasn't good. So really pay attention to that 20 to 30 minute second rise after you shape them. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a shot where you guys can see the actual bagels boiling, so don't worry about that. All right, these ones are almost done. And again, what I like to do is because you got those little lines on the bottom from when you rolled and fold, right? Sometimes when you're doing a lot of bagels, it lets you go, like, can you just see the lines? And you go, oh yeah, they've already been flipped, so now I know to take them out. All right, and so those ones are done. All we're going to do is shake off the excess water, and we put them on the tray. And that is it. All right, so what I'm going to do, I am going to finish boiling these bad boys, and then we'll come back and we'll do our egg wash. All right, see you in a bit. Hey everybody, we're back. So all our bagels have been boiled up, and I'm ready to put the wash on. I always like to look at the bagels because they kind of remind me of glazed donuts at this point, but don't eat them. Whatever you do, don't eat them. All right, so we're gonna do our wash. We got our 1 egg yolk in a small little bowl. All right, or 1 egg in a small little bowl. Okay, and we're gonna take 3 tablespoons of full of water. I usually just use my water glass like I'm doing now. And I put 3 tablespoonfuls in. And I switched out my spoon for a trusty fork, and I'm just going to give it a little whisk. Oh. Just like so. Now with this step, you can also use olive oil if you choose. I've done both, and I find that with the egg wash, it gives comes out more golden brown. So that's why I went with the egg wash. But try them both and see which ones you like. Right? Different strokes for different folks, right? And you're just going to put a light coating on them. You might get a little bit of overspill. Don't worry about it. And there we go. Awesome. And that's our egg wash done. All right, oven is set to 425. I did forget to mention it in the last step. What I usually do is I preheat the oven while I'm boiling the bagels, and that way once all this is done, it usually times out just about right, and boom, in it goes. All right, so egg wash is on. We're gonna put our bagels in. And set the timer, 35 minutes. Boom. And that's it. We just wait for the goodness to happen. All right, so these are going to cook for 35 minutes, and I will see you shortly. Hey guys, we're back, and the timer's counting down. These bad boys are almost ready to come out. So I got my cooling rack all set up. Got my my oven mitts and a pair of tongs. All right. So we got 28 seconds. So just before we finish this up, I'm going to just drop our last piece of knowledge on you. So remember, the sourdough fermentation process not only enhances the flavor and the texture of your bagels, all right, but it also increases the nutritional value, making it a healthier and more digestible option for those seeking a healthy alternative to normal bread. Okay, just one thing on that. I'm just going to shut this off. All right, just one thing on that. Just remember, store-bought sourdough is not going to be the same as the sourdough you make in your house. Okay, sourdough should only have 3 ingredients: water, flour, and salt, and that's it. If it has anything else, you don't get those benefits, okay, of the knowledge that we dropped on you throughout the video. All right, so let's see what we got. Oh yeah. Just put those there for now. Let's see if I can give you a better view. All right, but there we go. Those little delicious balls of goodness. All right, nice and golden brown. And I'm just going to move them. The cooling rack. Awesome. All right, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please give us a like and a subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos of this nature. All right, thank you, and we'll see you soon.